Good morning, Kahal Kadosh. Shavua Tov u'mevorach to everyone. Today, the 18th day of Adar, corresponding to the second day of March 2021. The words of Torah today, that Neshamot have an aliyah in Gan Eden. Amen. So today, I was looking at the Gemara of today, and the Gemara discusses the topic of the Ketubah. The Ketubah, as we know, is the marriage contract between husband and wife. Everyone that Baruch Hashem got married through Chuppah and Kiddushin, irrelevant when the wedding took place, most likely received the Ketubah, and usually our tradition is that the mother of the bride keeps the Ketubah. In the event that you don't have a Ketubah, or let's say rather that the Ketubah was lost, in that case, you need to contact your rabbi and you need to do a new Ketubah. This Ketubah, it's called Ketubah de Irkesa. Basically, is a substitute form utilizing the information from the first original marriage and updating the form with the current date, location, witnesses, etc. And it's not an unknown concept. People who are aware of this halakha, that a husband cannot live with his wife if they don't have a Ketubah, and if they don't have, doesn't mean that it's not in their home, but actually means they don't know where the Ketubah is. I'm only saying this just to create an awareness among the class. But today, with your permission, I'd like to take a detour from the full version of the Gemara of today, but I'd like to discuss what is the Ketubah, what the Ketubah says, what are the rights, what are the obligations. The Ketubah, as our sages explained in plain English, is a contract between the marriage of a husband to his wife. In the olden days, Ketubah and the ring and the coin was not a mandatory requirement. In the olden days, a man saw a lady and they felt good with each other without doing the ceremonial aspect the way we do already for many centuries. There were those who will marry the wife through intimacy, and that perhaps in a certain type of history was acceptable, although the Gemara writes clearly that the Rabbi was not very pleased with that kind of action because it did not demonstrate the true commitment. So our great sages established three different obligations, or rather three different ways of executing the marriage ceremony. One is, kesef. One is the ring or a coin, according to some people. The other one, ketubah, the marriage contract. And number three, bi'ah, intimacy. This is the way the Gemara opens the statement in Tractate Kiddushin, which is the name of part of the ceremony being done under the chuppah. There are different opinions when and where to sign the ketubah. The overwhelming tradition up north is to sign the ketubah before the marriage, in the room, etc. In many places in South America, the signature of the ketubah is actually done under the chuppah, but both opinions are halachically valid. Make sure, obviously, that the rabbi who will perform the ceremony make sure that the witnesses are kosher, the witnesses are not related to the groom or the bride, and they are pious people, shomer Shabbat, kashrut, all the halachot which are required for a kosher witness. But today, we're going to try to dissect to a certain extent the ketubah and to understand what the rabbi says under the chuppah. So I'm going to give you a very brief translation that I have of the Ketubah. I'm not going to read the full version. I'll just give you an idea, and then, Be'ezat Hashem, we'll discuss the obligations that the husband must perform to his wife. So basically, the Ketubah begins by telling us the date. Which day of the week, which day of the month, which year, and where are we at? Are you in Aventura? Are you in Miami? Are you in Hollywood? Are you in Surfside? Are you in Bell Harbor? Are you in Kendall? Whatever neighborhood you're in, you put it accordingly. And then we give different kinds of titles. The Hatan, Hanaim, Neta Sha'ashu'im. These are all beautiful words that we say in honor of the Hatan. Basically, that is a superstar at all levels. And then we put the name, and according to some opinions, we don't only put the Hebrew name, but we put the name the way everybody knows him. And we also mention the father of the groom, and in many ketubot, they also write the family name. Then it comes the wonderful bride. The bride, we also give a lot of titles, beautiful expressions of kindness, of benevolence, of being a wonderful lady, and we also establish basically her name, her father's name, etc. And then the husband says, the groom, it's not the husband yet, be my wife according to the law of Moshe and Israel, and I will cherish, honor, support, and maintain you in accordance with the customs of Jewish husbands, who honestly cherish, honor, support, and maintain their wives. Beautiful. And then the husband gives a certain amount of value of silver coins called silver zuzim. Zuzim is one currency. And then the husband will provide also with food, clothing, and necessities, and undertake to live with you as the husband and wife according to universal customs. Then there are a couple of different technical details, and it says, towards the bottom, the Hatan takes upon himself the responsibility of this marriage contract, of the dowry and the additions, etc. And then in the Syrian tradition, or in the Sephardic tradition, basically they add a couple of additional concepts. Some of them, basically, that he will not divorce her unless it's consensual. And this is from one of the takanot of Rabbeinu Gershon. And the Beit Din also approves it accordingly. Basically, the Beit Din of the community. He should not go to a third party unknown in a village type of Beit Din and do the procedure, and he cannot convince her to forgive him the ketubah, and nothing that he's obligated from the ketubah perspective that she will say, okay, you don't have to do this for me, you don't have to do that for me. The ketubah doesn't allow it because these are Torah given obligations and benefits to the wife that the husband must fulfill. And then at the end, it comes the official basic commitment that the husband does. One is called kanina. Kanina means to make a kinyan, to make an acquisition. And you'll see that usually the rabbi will give to the groom a handkerchief or a pen that belongs to the rabbi, and the hatan lifts it up with the right hand, and it says, I take upon myself all the obligations written in the ketubah. This is one. Number two, nishba shebu'a hamura beteki'at kaf. He also makes a vow, a full vow And on top of that, the shaking of the hand. So the commitment. So we have the handkerchief, the vow, and the shaking of the hands, and with the mind of the Almighty and the mind of everyone who makes a proper vow to accept and to fulfill and to follow the document of the Ketubah without any change, without any updates, without any discounts, and everything is correct and clear and truth and verifiable and standing in front of us. Then the rabbi summons the two witnesses to sign the Ketubah. As I said before, witnesses need to be kosher, cannot be related to either one of the groom or the bride, no relationship whatsoever. And then the Hatan, to certify everything, he will sign at the bottom of the Ketubah. So this is what, in a nutshell, the Ketubah says. I gave you the abridged version, but I need you to know that there are details for every blank of the Ketubah, how to write the day of the week, how to write the Hebrew date of the month, how to write the month, how to write the year, how to write the location, and how to write the names of the groom and the bride. And then usually there is an added value known in Jewish law, Tosefet Ketubah, that according to our tradition today, the value is, besides the mandatory zuzim, if it's a single girl, never married, the value is 200 zuzim. If she's a widow or divorcee, the value is 100 zuzim. Then you add the value, the Tosefet Ketubah, the added value to the Ketubah, which today currently the community's amount is, I believe, $26,555. So you have 26 Hashem's names, and you have 555, that's Hamse, so to speak. But the Halacha also write, do not write a crazy amount that is not a bona fide and a realistic amount to be written in the Ketubah. And that's why Ketubah needs to be written properly. Has to be written properly with all the details, and Baruch Hashem, there are books for the rabbis that help to write the Ketubah without making mistakes, etc. In the Ketubah, we do not scratch, we do not cross out letters, we do not cross out words. The Ketubah needs to be uniform in the sense of that the words should not come out of the line. The writing should be individualized letter instead of writing connected with each other. Sometimes you see people write, they connect, but actually, I recall reading this many years ago, that the Ketubah needs to have the clarity of a Sefer Torah. What does it mean? Like a Sefer Torah, if a letter touches with each other, the Sefer Torah is not kosher, and you have to call the Sephir to fix it. Also in the Ketubah, the rabbi should make sure that the letters are individually separated without touching and without connecting one letter with the next letter. And that's the reason why many times the rabbis usually prepare the bulk of the Ketubah in advance, so they do it with a certain peace of mind, and there is always a backup Ketubah that needs to happen, because occasionally mistakes may happen. Even yesterday, there was a wedding done somewhere in Miami, and they had to utilize 3 Ketubot in order to come to the final version. Whatever happened, I wasn't there, but somebody came and asked me a question about the Ketubah yesterday. But Baruch Hashem, the moral of the story is that they came ready. And it's very important for the rabbis who do the wedding to come ready in the sense of a backup Ketubah. And as someone who does wedding, Baruch Hashem, for many years, we always have a backup just in case maybe there is another rabbi who will look at the Ketubah and may not agree or may say, I'm sorry, you have a mistake, or this should have been written in a different way. So in that case, you always have a plan B, and this way you don't delay anything. I remember one wedding that I was honored to be the witness, and the rabbi who performed the wedding went through 4 or 5 ketubot because mistakes were made. And sometimes the mistakes is an innocent mistake. It's not a mistake done in purpose, but sometimes when you write the ketubah under pressure, mistakes could happen, especially if everybody is on top of you. That's why I personally prepare the ketubot usually in advance, in the library, here quiet, when no one is around, and this way, and I pray that Hashem should help me to make sure not to make mistakes, etc. So, with that being said, let's review quickly what else the ketubah says. I explained to you the top and the bottom. Let's read the middle. So, the obligations of the ketubah are actually 10 obligations that the husband must do for his wife. The Gemara discusses there used to be a time that wine was part of the gifts that the husband will give the wife. But another opinion of the Gemara says, instead of giving the wife wine, the wife rather have jewelry. I'm not kidding you. This is one of the opinions of today's Gemara. And the Gemara says, you're right, because this is something that gives honor to the wife, and she feels nice, and she feels good about it, and she feels loved, etc. I hope that what I'm saying doesn't create any issue of shalom bayit, but this is part of the Gemara of today. And the Gemara challenged the opinion who said wine. He says many times wine and a female relationship can turn disastrous. And he says, no, if the husband is with the wife will drink calmada, relax. But if she is with other friends, that's when certain things can get out of hands. But we're not going to talk about the wine. We spoke about the jewelry. But let's talk about overall the commitments that are signed when a person gets married. Okay, so it says, number 1, the husband must feed the wife. Feeding is one of the biblical obligations. She'era, kesutah, onatah. She'era means feeding. Kesutah means dressing. The husband must make sure that the wife is dressed and properly dressed and give her money to buy. Also, makeup and jewelry is part of the cover of the body, so to speak. The third one is onatah. Onatah literally means marital relations. Now, onatah in plain English also means her time. Onatah means her time. Another explanation explains onatah means the time of the husband and the time of the wife. That means marital relationship on a timely basis. Now, don't ask me what does it mean on a timely basis. It depends. Depends on age. Depends on the status of nidah. If nidah, so then you have a 2-week window. If it's not nidah, then you don't have a 2-time windows. Kabbalistic is once a week, but obviously we're not here to determine that matter. This is between husband and wife, and for seniot purposes, I will skip that. Another one, providing for her medical needs. In other words, if the wife has a medical need, a medical situation, medical condition, the husband cannot tell the wife, go ask your parents for help. This is a halachic obligation that the husband must do for his wife. Another one, what happens if, God forbid, the wife is kidnapped? Okay? Obviously, you cannot tell the kidnappers, keep her. Haz v'shalom. Obligation is takanat hachamim, that if God forbid the wife gets kidnapped, the husband must pay the ransom and release his wife. Number 7, God forbid, if the wife leaves the world before the husband has the obligation to take care of the burial and all the expenses. Maybe the children will like to help to give the proper kavod to a mother, haz v'shalom, but from the halakha perspective, the one who needs to assume the responsibility that everything is done properly is the obligation of the husband. Now, another one. If the husband, God forbid, now the opposite, the husband passes away, the children cannot come to the mother and say, Mom, you don't need such a big house, move to a condominium. Maybe the mother says, oh, thank you so much, you make my life easier, chazak u'baruch. If that's what she wants, I don't think there is any objection. But part of the commitment of the ketubah is that she reserves the right to live in his house after his passing, and she needs to be supported from the state that the husband left behind. There is such a thing in the halakha. Why? Because the mother is the mother of the children and the wife of the husband. I'm talking about first marriages. Second marriages, it becomes a bit more technical. Sometimes the second marriage is more on the concept of companionship and to live between the parameters of kosher lifestyle, and not, God forbid, to have two single people living together under the same roof. We know that that is forbidden. There is halakha kol ihud. A man cannot be secluded with a lady that is not his wife, or his mother, or his daughter, and maybe the sister. Other than that, there is a concept of ihud. So a man and a woman cannot live together unless they have chuppah and kiddushin. That's the reason why. And I had a case many months ago, something called in Judaism, chuppat nida. What happens in the following scenario? Usually, a bride, when she calculates the time of the wedding, is always connected to the cycle of the month, because you don't want to do a chuppah when she is nida. Why not? Obviously, accidents do happen, and sometimes the stress of the wedding and the anxiety of the wedding and the emotions of the wedding can precipitate the monthly cycle to appear. And then, if that happens, the chuppah is done under nida auspices. What does that mean? That really the wedding is not consummated physically that night because she is nida. So that brings another halachic situation, that if she is nida, she is not the wife yet of this husband, even though that he gave her the ketubah, and even though that he gave her the ring, but because he's missing the mizvah of the first night, that marriage is not considered a marriage to enable him and her to be alone. So therefore, the halakha says that you need to put a mashgiach. What does it mean, a mashgiach? An adult, which could be a child of 12, 13 and up, that she is going to sleep with her, and this way, that will be like the mechitza, that will be the barrier between the groom and the bride. I know that this does not sound too nice, but as a rabbi, I'm telling you that occasionally it does happen. And obviously, every rabbi needs to guide the groom and bride accordingly, but that is basically the halakha. Why? Because although I said in the beginning that many centuries back, the marriage could have been done through one of the three situations that we have in front of us, the coin, the Ketubah and marital relations, but our Hachamim already made a takana that a man must execute these 3 steps. Why? Because this way marriage do not become disposable. And that was what prompted the Hachamim to activate these rules and regulations to make sure that situations of this level don't happen again. It seems to be, from what I recall, that marriage was disposable back then, and ladies went back to the parents' home, no longer betulot, and who knows what else had happened. This way, it gives like a safety net to the wife that the husband is careful and makes sure to fulfill all of the halachic requirements that we discussed today. Now, I'm just trying to scan one more concept. The Gemara is a known Gemara in Masechet Yevamot that it says, Ohava kegufo umchabeda yoter migufo. In plain English means the husband loves his wife as he loves himself and honors her more than what he honors himself. And this is the key, basic, fundamental aspect of marriage. Yes, I threw you a lot of technical details and perhaps a lot of explanation of what the Ketubah is, but basically, if the husband activates this page of the Talmud that says that you love your wife as you love yourself and respect her more than you respect yourself, what does that mean? That basically you provide for your wife. And what you do for you do for her. You can't tell her, I'm going to buy myself XYZ for the holiday, and then you tell her, okay, go to Amazon and see if you find something, or go to Big Lots, or go to how do you call this store? Burlington, and buy something. Take $50 and buy 2 skirts. Obviously, we all know, and we discussed this a long time ago, this is a recipe for disaster. Needless to say, and I will say this, that although I said a lot of things, but also the wives need to be conscientious of the reality of their marriage. Because somebody may say, Rabbi, you said that the husband must buy jewelry, I must do this, I must do that, I must do. All that is true, but also a normalcy and down-to-earth lifestyle and living within the means of the person. Part of the challenges that we have in our generation, that people live above and beyond their means. And that what brings challenges in life. If it's financial, emotional, the wrong example given to the children, which this I can use very well as the springboard of the Musar of today. The Musar of today continues what we started yesterday to discuss the topic of jealousy. There are people that are not content with their life, but not because their life is not nice, or not because the life is missing food, God forbid. The life has food, and the life has stability, and the life has nice things. But what happens? There is someone that has more, and they want to keep up with that. And that's when that triggers jealousy, God forbid, in the life of the person. And jealousy, in a way, is in an indirect statement to Hashem that He did not give you enough, or He did not do what you thought He was supposed to do. And that's why we discussed this several times in the past. A person must learn how to count their blessings. And when a person counts their berachot, and the person is happy with whatever blessing Hashem gave you. Maybe you have a wife, and you have a husband, and you have children, and you have grandchildren, and your next door neighbor that seems to be the lifestyle of the rich and famous, so to speak, yet has no shalom bayit. The kids are a headache, or God forbid, sometimes they don't have kids. They don't have nahat, they don't have joy and pride in the life. Okay, they have a nice car in the driveway. Okay, they did a beautiful job in the decoration of the home. But guess what? Is that the priority in a person's life? And God forbid, we're not against that a person should live good and should live comfortable. But understand what are the true priorities in life. And if a person truly looks at the priorities in life, then you need to be honest with yourself and start putting a check mark. What is priority in my life? Marriage, providing, children, health, whatever order you want to put in your life. And Be'ezat Hashem, if we activate what we know that what needs to be done, and I hope that this class of today served as an eye-opener when it comes to the sanctity and the holiness of marriage. So Be'ezat Hashem, the zechut of following the ways of the Ketubah and what the halacha and our hachamim establishes for the holiness and the sanctity of marriage, it truly brings peace and harmony to the life of the person. Don't look at the other. Don't look at the other. They have it, besiman tov. You don't have it, I don't need it. This is an interesting perspective of emunah. If I will need to have it, Hashem will send it to me. And if I don't have it today, it's because I don't need it. And at the right time, the Yeshua and the blessing and the salvation will come. I think that I'm going to stop the class here, as in exactly 30 minutes, Be'ezat Hashem, we're going to start the class in Spanish today, Tuesday, clase en español 10:30, en el libro de Tehillim, capítulo 99. I said something in the beginning, I'll repeat it again. Do you know where your Ketubah is? If you know, Hazak. If you have a copy of it, great. If your mother has it or your mother-in-law has it, excellent. But if none of the above applies, you don't know where your Ketubah is, maybe you moved, or maybe your parents moved, or maybe your in-laws moved, and they sold the house, they sold the apartment, the halakha writes that a husband cannot live with his wife without the Ketubah. So my strong suggestion is, speak to your local rabbi, and hopefully he will help you to do the made-up Ketubah, which basically summarizes what took place the day that you got married, with the information, the date, and it updates to be a current Ketubah for the holiness and the sanctity of your marriage. May everybody be blessed with a beautiful peace and harmony in their home. And Be'ezat Hashem, for the husband, may Hashem give us the zechut and the opportunity to fulfill every step that the Ketubah brings upon us, and that will make our wives very happy and very loved and very appreciated, and that will enhance and update and upgrade our Shalom Bayit, which is basically one of the most fundamental requirements for marriage, besides respect and holiness and sanctity, family purity, and all the matters that, Baruch Hashem, you are an audience, a faithful audience that learns and comes and shows up virtually via itorah.com, some of them live, some of them in a recorded class, but it doesn't matter. The message is the same. Have a great day, everyone, and Be'ezat Hashem, for the English department, We'll see each other tomorrow at approximately 9:15, and for the Spanish and Espanol, Be'ezat Hashem, in approximately half an hour. Have a great day, everybody.